A legend absolutely deserving of his induction.
The future of Swedish Counter-Strike hasn't been looking this bright in years. But it feels like God is taking my hand and shooting. Just utterly insane. The military coming knocking on my door. I cannot imagine a life without Counter-Strike. Hi guys, HeatoN here. Thank you so much for this great honor to being inducted to the HLTV Hall of Fame. I must say I'm a little surprised. I think there's quite a few guys who deserve it more than me.
Emil, HeatoN, Christensen, first of all, congratulations on being inducted into our Hall of Fame. How does it feel now that it has been almost 20 years since you stopped playing to still get all this recognition?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. It's a great honor. Wow, it really feels amazing. You know, Counter-Strike has been my life since back in '99 when I started playing until it still is to this day. I do believe that there are quite a lot of players during, you know, the old era, so up to 1.6, that kind of deserves it more than me. I was for sure a decent player, but you know, there was some really talented ones, so I'm very, very grateful.
You are, without a doubt, one of the most famous players in Counter-Strike history, and you were according to many, one of the first superstars in the game, which is quite ironic because, you know, by your own admission, you were quite bad at the game when you first started playing, yeah. and your friends used to mock you about how bad you were at the game. So walk me through those first years in the game.
Well, I mean, I was a big ice hockey guy. Ice hockey was my life. That was my only goal, to become a professional hockey player. And I hurt my foot. I actually played Counter-Strike once before, and it was on a local LAN cafe, 8 computers, no internet. We played Assault. I played CT side, saved up to auto sniper, and went up on the CT roof camping. And I was horrible at the game. I was horrible at the game, and we played a little bit. My friends mocked me because I was really, really, really bad. So I felt like, hey, I can't accept that. I got to become good at the game. So I started playing a lot since I had a lot of time. And, you know, within time, I started, hey, I'm getting better at this. So eventually, I beat my friends, and basically most of the people I played against, I was better. I was like, oh, this is nice. This is a fun thing. So I put in a lot of hours.
And how did you go from there, from starting to get better and better at the game after you sustained your injury, to, you know, getting noticed by other players and eventually, you know, getting an opportunity to try out for NIP?
Well, I mean, back in the days, we didn't have like Faceit or any places like this. We didn't even have deathmatch servers. The only thing we had was public servers. So that's where we all, you know, played to try to show ourselves and to obviously become better at the game and have a good time. So I started being picked up there by, I can't remember what the team name was, but it was a guy on the server saying, hey, I'm the clan leader, you want to come play with us? And I did, and I still remember my first practice game where we were gonna play, because we didn't even have a server, so we found an empty public server and joined that one, and that's where we played the game. I mean, it's changed so much until how it is now. From then on to a team Nostradamus, who was like 3rd, 4th best in Sweden. And me and Potti, we started to know each other, and it was actually the other way around there. Potti and me were playing at the same public servers, and I was the best there, except when Potti was in. Time flies, he goes to CPL, and he wins it, and obviously becomes the MVP as well. So I had to come clean and just apologize to him, and you know, we started becoming friends, and we were best friends for 20 years after that, which was amazing. So he said, hey, Emil, you want to try out for NIP? So I did my first tryout for NIP, and I got so nervous. I choked hard, like I was horrible. So obviously I didn't get the spot, and just like a week after, Potti said, hey, we have these games tonight, can you join? We have a player who can join. I was like, yeah, I can play. Then there was no pressure on me, and I played really good. And then he said, hey, this was your tryout, I just wanted you not to be nervous.
You were a rising star in 2001 when you joined SOA and then NIP, and you were surrounded by players who were more experienced and who were already making a big name in the scene, like Potti, Hib, Median. Vesson as well. What was it like for you as this young kid, you know, coming up through the ranks and playing alongside all these big names?
Well, I think the most fun part, you know, coming up like that is that I didn't really have an idea how good people were, how good I were compared to them. I was kind of fearless. I didn't have too much respect as maybe the other guys had. I just ran and did my thing pretty much. I wasn't nervous anymore when I played either. I just felt this flow in going, and obviously, you know, not over peaking. That's probably what I learned most from the other guys. Don't over peak in after plant or in an advantage, because I would keep swinging, which is obviously not a good thing unless your name is Donk. And I also think they got a little inspired by me, because I don't think I was the biggest talent. Like, there were people who had more talent for the game, Spawn, Seth, and you know, shitloads of other guys. But I played all my time, like 14 hours per day, through my active years. I just wanted to win all the time, and Potti was the same. So we kind of matched up pretty well together.
It's impossible to talk about you and not mention Potti. How special was it for you to share so many memories, so many tournament wins with someone that was so close to you and that remains a friend to this day?
I mean, it was obviously super important. We did everything. We lived together for many years. We played together all the time. He was like the brother I never had. I didn't have any siblings, but he's the closest one that I ever had, honestly. He was my best friend and also kind of a life mentor to me. He's a few years older. He taught me so much about Counter-Strike, but also life from outside of gaming. And, you know, I was a very insecure young guy. He helped me a lot in life.
One thing that everyone brings up when they're talking about you and Potti is that how hardworking you were. Fisker used to say that you wanted to play 24/7, and you yourself said that no one worked harder than me, no one practiced harder than me.
Yeah, I think obviously I had an advantage from coming from a sporting background. But secondly, like two main factors was, number one, I really loved the game. Like, that was the best thing I knew in life. I just wanted to put in hours. And I could actually feel, you know, that I played better. You have those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extra percentage of higher level in the games if you put in the hours, and people didn't do that to the same extent. Me and Potti was the same. We just wanted to practice, become the best all the time. When there was no tournament running, we were playing 24/7. We just ate, sleep, and played Counter-Strike. And I think, you know, having that, you know, Potti has a, you know, boxing background and doing sports as well, you know, we had the same mindset for it.
We're not talking about HeatoN, we're talking about an insane spray control. You were the master of the spray back in those early days of Counter-Strike. What did it feel like to see so many players try to copy you, try to copy your style, and try to do what you were doing in the game?
The reason I started spraying a lot was in situations that was so hard to get more than 1, possibly 2 frags if they, you know, attack at the same site if you're gonna burst. I was like, there must be a more efficient way to actually, you know, get multi-kills. And I started spraying, and obviously the spray control wasn't, you know, perfect, but I could feel if I had a little luck, you know, I could bring down 3 people instead if they're pushing my site. And, you know, so I started, hey, I'm going to become really good at spraying. So I was practicing a lot, you know. We didn't have any fancy practice mods or anything like we have right now in Counter-Strike. So it was mostly shooting towards the wall and then, you know, overtraining the spray. I even, you know, in practice games, I sprayed on a really long distance, you know, to get into it all the time. So it was just, my focus was on spraying basically all the time, and the more I did it, the more successful it was. It was so much easier to get multi-frags in situations. If I would, you know, relax a little bit, forest style, going easy, I wouldn't have done as good. And also I think the spraying in you know, up to 1.3 was really nice.
Yeah, before 1.5 came out, the game was all about individual skill, and it felt like your teams, NIP and then SK, you had 2 of the best players when it came to raw fragging power. It was you and Potti. When one of you was having a good day, it felt like, you know, you have a good chance of winning. And if by any chance the 2 of you were on fire, then it felt like a sure win.
To be fair, we were very exceptional players, and what's good was that I can't remember many games that both of us didn't have a good game. You know, if I were off, Potti took over, and vice versa. And just like you mentioned, if we were both on fire, it was kind of ease mode. But we had so much passion for the game, and you know, it really helped us, you know, become as good as we were back then, because there was nobody knew how to practice. Nobody knew what to do. So we just had to form the way ourselves compared to how it is right now. There's guides for everything online pretty much, but we just had to pave the way ourselves because YouTube didn't even exist back then. No practice mods, just, knowledge, learning ourselves and learning from each other is what we did a lot.
You won a lot of tournaments throughout your career. We're talking about 9 CPLs, 1 WCG, and some other smaller tournaments. Looking back, is there any tournament in particular that stands out?
Well, the highlight of a tournament win for me was WCG 2003, without a doubt, for 2 reasons actually. First off this was played in South Korea, and it was played in the old Olympic village in Seoul, and it was the first time we sat on a big stage with a big audience in front of us, like tournaments are today. And secondly, we did this amazing comeback on map 2 versus 3D in the finals, down 10-2. After the T-side on train and managed to win 11-1 at CT. 2 little fun side note with this game though was that first the server crashed when we won the T-pistol round and the anti-eco. But rules back in the days, they didn't have a way to reset it. So if the game crashed before round 3 was finished, well, you restart the game and obviously we lose the pistol round there. And number 2 was, there was like a 20-second delay on the screen behind us, so we weren't supposed to look around and look at it. And they told us you gotta stay quiet. If you win the game, you can't stand up and share. And I'm sitting there, when we won, Potti went all bananas, and I'm like, I have to stand up as well, right? I still get goosebumps thinking on this from now. It's crazy.
You mentioned WCG 2003 as the highlight of your career. I also wanted to touch on CPL Winter 2001, which was, according to Potti, a very special tournament for him. You had that amazing run that culminated in beating X3. Was it also a special tournament for you to win it like that, after such a close grand final?
Well, I mean, that's my second best tournament win ever. And was also fun. It was, I think, that it was the first official World Championship sanctioned by, it was a Valve having Counter-Strike. It was Guzman and Cliff, the creators of the game, who sanctioned it. This is the first official World Championship, so basically the first major. It was kind of like the Clash of the Titan, and it was a really, really tight finals as well, I remember that. So much emotions coming out when I did it. I haven't felt that anytime except when I became a father myself. It's, the same strong thing, which is amazing.
I wanted to show you this clip.
Oh, I remember this. I remember this one. This is Aztec, for you guys who don't know the map, which was an extremely CT-sided map. Like, if you got 2-3 T rounds, you were happy. I get the first one, and the second guy turns around and wants to get a refrag, but there was this thing called, if you shoot somebody in the head when they had a helmet, the crosshair went all shaky. We called it Bob. I don't know what... Did you call it that as well? Okay, in Sweden we call it Bob. We said hello Bob all the time because of the CL Bob thing. And I shot him in the head, so he couldn't aim towards me. I got him fairly easy as well, picked up the AK, finished up the third guy who actually ran up the stairs already. It was like, yeah, my teammates got this one. I don't know, it's like, this might sound cheesy, I'm a believer in God myself, but it feels like God is taking my hand and shooting. And it actually, like, I still can't figure out where
the fourth kill was amazing.
Yeah, I don't even know where it is. Like, I don't know where it is. I just shoot a few bullets through. I think it's running in bridge room, right? And it gets headshotted through the wall.
Came out of the bridge room, yeah.
Yeah, just insane. And the last guy runs out, double doors, and I get an easy frag on him with a headshot. One of the strongest memories for this is, we had Westland in the team then, and me and Potti were like, whoa! The Westland guys, sit down, there was nothing special. And I got pretty pissed, thinking back in the beginning of that. But what Westland did there was actually, you all know how it is when you do a clutch. He just wanted to cool us down to focus on the job. So he did a really good thing there. But in the beginning, I was like, why did he do that? That was one of the coolest things ever, right?
One thing that your former teammates say about you is that you had really good communication skills. And that's something that grew in you over time, because I remember when you were starting out, you were still a shy kid, you know, you didn't talk much, but as your career went on, you became louder and louder. You started becoming this huge voice in your teams.
I think it comes with self-confidence, right? We didn't have TeamSpeak or Discord or anything that worked. We had this thing called Roger Wilco, and it was a few seconds delay. So if I were to call something, they're coming B, that would be like 2-3 seconds. I can't remember the delay, but it was a lot until my teammates heard it. So it didn't make any sense to have that. I could actually notice, you know, the more vocal I was, the more, you know, pumped up my team got as well. So that kind of became my thing.
Let's now talk about 2003, which was an amazing year, an historical year. You got Alwyn Fisker at the beginning of the year, and then a few months into the year, you got Element as well. You won a lot of tournaments. Even without Element, for example, he couldn't play at WCG. You had Spawn, and you still won that tournament. Did it feel at the time that you guys were invincible?
I mean, both yes and no. Just like Fisker said, and you know, we had, when we played a tournament, we could feel like we were all in sync and we were all aligned. We know what we were going to do. We were locked in. But before every single tournament, I was so scared because we were practicing. And we got owned, like in a lot of games, not like we lost games here and there. And then, you know, you're scared, like, shit, did we actually, you know, did we lose it? Mid-tournament, sometimes it felt like, okay, we're pretty much unstoppable. But then, you know, you got a reality check when you were practicing before it, which I think was a very necessary thing, not to think you are untouchable, because then, you know, people will catch up.
I wanted to ask you about the role that being part of an organization like SK had in your success. When you were with SK, they were already becoming a big organization in esports. You had a salary, it wasn't a big salary, but you could still focus on the game. Did it feel that you had a head start at the time because you had the sort of conditions that other teams could only dream of?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember my day rhythm when playing pro was I woke up at like 3 in the afternoon and then playing all night, because we were basically the only ones who got paid to play full time. And obviously Inferno Online helped us out a lot, having our own practice room. Nobody else had that back in the days. It was like unheard of. I think the practice we had when we boot camped were like 5 times as, you know, developing as online practice, because we could walk everything through, you know, discuss everything in person. You don't get the same feeling in doing, you know, practicing online, for sure. So it really helped us out.
One of the things that the SK organization was very good at was promoting your team. You became like the face of the organization. You went on promotional tours. What was it like, you know, because esports was still a very niche thing back then, to go to these places, to promote the organization, to promote the team, and to have a lot of fans.
I mean, it was an amazing feeling. You know, back in Sweden, not many people even know how we looked like back in days, because there was no live streams to see it. The matches were on HLTV, right? The day after we win WCG 2003, we're going to China, and we land, and we're expecting one guy to pick us up at the airport, right? And there's hundreds of people standing, you know, and there's guards, and we don't cope directly that they're actually here for us. This was utterly insane. It was a start of a journey that over a few days really changed my life, and, you know, how we looked at esport, because we had to walk around, you know, we had guards everywhere, people, you know, we had this tour bus we went around with, people trying to climb onto it and holding on, and guards, you know, I mean, it was just utterly insane. The military coming knocking on my door, and I was like, oh, I'm screwed. And they were like, can we have autograph? At home in Europe, we're just regular guys, right? And we were superstars there.
After winning CPL Winter, a few months after that tournament win, Element decided to leave the team and join NOA, which was a shock to everyone. It was the first player transfer in esports history. From what I was told, you were quite close to him. You guys saw the game the same way, and he was a friend to you as well. So how did everyone react to that news?
Well, it was really, really rough. Really, really rough. I can understand it from Ola's standpoint as well, that he wanted to play with, you know, more Norwegians in the team. I totally respect that, because national teams were a thing. But for me, you know, I grow very fond of Ola. I still like him a lot to this day. You know, his approach to Counter-Strike, how he wanted to play the game, and he was in game leading as well, was absolutely phenomenal, both for the team, but also he utilized me in a perfect way. You know, he had those little things he wanted me to do and to have the team set me up to, get some, a good opportunity to finish rounds off. He did things like that nobody did before.
And it felt that after he left the team, things were never quite the same. In 2004, it felt like other teams were starting to catch up with you guys. At WCG, for example, you came in 4th place, and towards the end of that year, Potti just stopped playing. He had that contract dispute with SK. How disappointing was it for you personally to have a year like that after such a successful 2003?
Well, that kind of ended the happy days of Counter-Strike for me, at least. We had first off in 2003 the transition into 1.6, which really hurt me a lot on an individual level. We had Potti leaving in the end of the year, and I also started playing a lot of World of Warcraft on the side. It was really bad. It started to take over more and more. I had some days where I was practicing with the team and I tabbed out to World of Warcraft to sit and grind at the same time. I mean, I still loved the game, but I started to lose the passion that I felt that I had the years prior. I want to develop. I just felt like I love the game. I love playing it. I love watching it, but I didn't have the same glow for it anymore.
And just a few months into 2006, Potti just decided to stop playing for good this time. You had been playing with him for 5 years at this point. How did you react to this decision? And I imagine this was just another blow to your motivation to just keep playing.
I kind of knew it was coming eventually, because both me and Potti did not feel the same way anymore. I mean, it's the harsh reality of it. So it was kind of expected. Potti was doing great at other stuff in life. It did not come as a surprise, but it was kind of the final nail in the coffin.
Did Potti's retirement make it easier for you to just stop playing? Because it was not enjoyable as it used to be, I imagine.
It makes it so much easier when Potti was gone for me. And I remember the first time when Potti took a break, I got heartbroken. I wish I kind of stopped playing a bit earlier, because I did not have the passion anymore. I was just around because I used to be this great player, but I was not anymore. I didn't have the passion for it. And I respect Potti for taking, stopping earlier. And I think that a lot of players nowadays still, they should, put the rifle on the table and doing something else or go into coaching.
Your retirement and Potti's retirement marked a changing of the guard in the Swedish scene. What was it like for you to step aside and watch other players, Zeta, Valle, Get Right, Forest, DSN, and watch all those players come up in the scene and carry your legacy and carry the torch that you guys were carrying for so long in the Swedish scene?
It felt really good. I knew it was in good hands. I always had, a long relationship with Get Right, and I took him in to say he's going to take over now when I quit soon. So we did that months before I actually quit, and say you're going to be the new one, and because he had so much talent. So for me, I felt it was in good hands, and it just felt natural. We had some really good years, and it's time to let somebody else take over now and be the driving force for the Swedish CS scene.
How do you look back at your legacy in the game? Because you've said many times that you don't think you were the most talented player, but you were, without a doubt, one of the most impactful players. We're talking not just about raw numbers, but also about cultural impact. You were, without a doubt, someone who transcended Counter-Strike. How do you look at your legacy in the game?
I'm super proud of my legacy. From everything to what I've done for the game in-game, people learned from me and started coping, but also, especially in Sweden, being the face out for esports as I was and has been for many years. When people think of esports, I was kind of, the front man for it and helped it grow so much in Sweden. Counter-Strike is my biggest passion in life, still to this day, 25 years later. I spend so many hours every day about Counter-Strike still, and I still love it. And it's an amazing honor to be recognized, and actually, to be honest, if we're gonna boost ourselves a little bit, being an important part in the history of Counter-Strike in esports.
It has been a rough few years for the Swedish scene. It hasn't been, like it used to be.
I think, to be honest, I don't want Swedish guys to get really pissed off at me right now, but I feel like the younger generation of Swedish players and Swedes in general growing up are a bit lazy. If you look at like the top 50 players in Sweden and their face-it numbers compared to the CIS region, etc., is night and day. They don't put in enough hours. And we had this generation gap after, we had us guys, then we had Valle, etc., then Forrest Getright and the NIP guys moving over to Fnatic. We had a lot of talents just below there that didn't get the chance. So when they started falling off, there was no one there to, keep it going. Just like when I stopped, Seth Valle and those guys came in, there was no one there to pick it up. And that, made a decline, and people don't put in the hours. It kind of made it a lot worse.
But do you think that the teams at the time were also stuck to the same routines, to the same players too long? For example, that maybe even when the player was not performing, that they would still keep him on the roster instead of picking up a young player just because it was easier that way?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was hard for me, being a part of NIP to remove a player because other players didn't want to do it. But, and that was way overdue in situations like that. And, some players, they were a bit scared of doing that because they had this great legacy and they're still performing good, which meaning that we kind of lost a lot of talent down there that did not have the chance to become the stars they could have been in a different universe.
We're now witnessing the rise of a few Swedish players. You have Susp, for example, Nilo, Male, 09, Spooke. Are you excited and optimistic about the future of Swedish Counter-Strike?
I have to say that the future of Swedish Counter-Strike hasn't been looking this bright in years, to be honest. I'm really excited about, the future for the stars we have. We had the breakout tournament for Susp now in the major, but I also want to lift a finger for Youngster X. I think he's an extremely talented player that I would not be surprised if we see Youngster, being one of the absolute best players in the world. And we have, the Swedish Donk coming, Male 09, just like you mentioned, being 15 years old at the moment. I watched this guy play for many years now, and his skill level has been absolutely insane. This is the biggest talent we have ever had in Sweden.
And how does it make you feel to see NIP move away from a Swedish team and have an international lineup?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't have done the same, but there has been a lot of changes for NIP during the last year where you feel like this. But I see their point in what they're doing right now. I would have picked a Swedish team, going back to the root. For NIP as an organization, they really don't have any connection back to Sweden anymore. I mean, it's not owned by Swedes. They don't have a Swedish team in anything. Yes, they have an office there, but for them to start building an international roster, this is a very good starting ground. I would assume a team like NIP, with the resources they have, to go after some bigger fish in the future. But I think this is a very good starting ground. But hopefully, with Johnny Speeds and, Metisport, even though it's Norwegian-owned, it can change the future, because I do believe we have great amounts of upcoming players right now.
I was going through an old interview of yours from late 2003, and you were asked, how long do you think that Counter-Strike will last? And you said at the time, at least a couple more years. It has now been over 20 years since that interview, and Counter-Strike is still going strong. How does that make you feel, as one of the OGs of the game?
I love it. Like, I cannot imagine a life without Counter-Strike. It's my biggest passion. I don't watch any other sport. It's the only thing I watch, and I love it. And the whole scene has grown so much with, beautiful productions, serious teams. It's just going to expand even broader, which is a beautiful thing, because back in the days when I started playing, getting paid playing a computer game was unheard of. I think the fundamentals of Counter-Strike are so freakishly great. Like, it's so easy for an outsider to understand what's actually happened. You could sit down for the first time when I was in my prime, you could get a frag on me. But to master the game, you need so many hours. So it's very inclusive. I love this game.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Emil.
Thank you, my friend.
And congratulations once again for making
Thank you
the
so
Hall of
much.
Fame.